beneath our feet lies another world, a world of hidden passageways, sealed chambers, and buried corridors stretching further than most of us could ever imagine. For as long as humans have told stories, they've spoken of secret tunnels under the earth. Places carved in darkness, used for survival, ritual, or power. Some of these stories have been dismissed as myth, others buried in archives, and some remain off-limits, even today. But time and again, new discoveries keep forcing us to ask, what is really down there? Archaeology has given us glimpses. In Turkey, the Derinkuyu underground city was built deep into the rock, a place where more than 20,000 people could live, hide, and thrive. In America, native legends speak of hidden peoples who survived cataclysms by retreating into vast subterranean worlds. And in Russia, Mount Yamantau looms over the Urals, its slopes sealed and guarded, hiding what many believe is one of the largest underground complexes ever built. Three very different places, three very different stories, all pointing to the same truth. Humanity has always used the underground for secrets. This isn't coincidence. Across cultures and across centuries, the Earth itself seems to hold another layer of history just below the surface. Some tunnels were carved for refuge, others for ceremony, others for reasons we may never understand. And the strangest part is, every new discovery raises more questions than it answers. How could ancient builders carve entire cities with nothing but primitive tools? Why do so many myths describe the same thing? Hidden worlds, sealed off, waiting below. And why are governments today still building vast networks beneath the surface, then denying what they're really for? This is not just a story about archaeology, or myth, or conspiracy. It's all of them colliding. From the labyrinths of Cappadocia, to the ritual tunnels of Peru, from Tibetan legends of Agartha, to the classified bunkers of the Cold War, the deeper you look, the more the pieces begin to connect. And that's where our journey begins. We're going to trace these tunnels through ancient ruins, global legends, and modern secrets, to see what picture emerges when we stop treating them as isolated mysteries. Because the truth is, the underground has never been fully explored. And the most shocking part is, some of these tunnels are still sealed today. The first hard evidence of a hidden world underground came to light in Turkey in the 1960s. A man repairing his home in Cappadocia knocked down a wall and found not bedrock, but a tunnel. That tunnel kept going, splitting into passageways that led deeper into the earth. What he had uncovered was the entrance to a city that had been sealed for centuries, its existence forgotten. Today we know this place as Derinkuyu. It plunges nearly 280 feet beneath the ground and extends across 18 known levels. Archaeologists estimate it could have housed up to 20,000 people at once, with room for families, livestock, food stores, and water. In practical terms, it was the size of a small town, but hidden entirely beneath the earth. The structure is astonishing in its design. Narrow corridors open into large communal halls. Circular stone doors, some weighing half a ton, were built to seal off sections with a single push. Ventilation shafts drop through multiple layers to circulate fresh air, some as deep as modern high-rise towers turned upside down. Wells tapped into underground water sources. Storage rooms, kitchens, wine presses, and chapels were carved out of the volcanic tuff. Derinkuyu was not a makeshift shelter dug in haste. It was a fully functioning city, engineered to sustain life underground for extended periods. The mystery is how it was created. Carving a single room in volcanic rock is simple. Excavating millions of cubic feet of stone, reinforcing chambers, cutting air shafts that still work today, and doing it all with hand tools is something else entirely. Mainstream archaeology suggests it was first dug during the first millennium BC and then expanded over time. Yet the precision of the ventilation and the sheer volume of rock removed remain difficult to reconcile with the tools historians say were available. Modern engineers have admitted that cutting and maintaining such a structure today would still be a challenge. Why build it in the first place? The accepted explanation is that it served as a refuge. Cappadocia has been invaded repeatedly throughout history. Persians, Byzantines, Mongols, and the ability to vanish underground would have been a powerful defense. From this perspective, Derinkuyu was a giant bunker, a place where tens of thousands could wait out danger above. But that explanation doesn't answer why it was built to such depth and complexity. Why construct chapels and wineries if the goal was short-term refuge? Why engineer a labyrinth with stone doors and defensive choke points, if not for something more deliberate? Some researchers suggest the city was also a sanctuary, a place to preserve culture and belief as much as life. Religious spaces carved into the rock point to spiritual significance, not just practicality. Others argue that Derinkuyu may have been expanded layer by layer, generation after generation, each group inheriting a system whose original purpose was already fading into memory. The fact that no clear records describe it adds to the sense that it was deliberately hidden, not merely forgotten. And secrecy runs through the story. Derinkuyu remained undiscovered until the 1960s, not because it collapsed or eroded, but because its entrances were sealed. For centuries, no one above knew that an entire city lay just below their homes. Even now, parts of it remain closed. Some passageways are blocked. Archaeologists suspect deeper levels exist, but they have never been mapped. Local rumors claim that tunnels run for miles, linking Derinkuyu to other underground sites across Cappadocia. If true, then what has been revealed so far is only a fraction of the system. Cappadocia is filled with similar complexes. Kaymakli, another underground city not far from Derinkuyu, is vast in its own right. Dozens more have been identified, some small, others sprawling. Many lie only a few kilometers apart. The possibility that they are connected by long hidden tunnels cannot be dismissed. Derinkuyu may be the largest and most famous, but it is not unique. It is one doorway into a much bigger network, a subterranean world beneath central Turkey that remains only partly understood. What is clear is that Derinkuyu cannot be explained away as a minor curiosity or a defensive shelter cobbled together with primitive tools. Its scale, precision, and secrecy suggest an extraordinary project, one that challenges what we think ancient builders were capable of. And it forces a larger question. If this much lies beneath one Turkish town, how much else remains hidden under Cappadocia's volcanic plain? While Cappadocia's tunnels sheltered people, in Mexico, tunnels beneath ancient pyramids were sealed with something even stranger. Beneath the ruins of Teotihuacan, an ancient city once home to over 100,000 people, archaeologists have uncovered subterranean passageways that had been deliberately hidden for nearly 2,000 years. The most famous discovery came in 2003, when heavy rains opened a sinkhole near the base of the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Local archaeologist Sergio Gomez lowered himself into the cavity and found an entrance that had been intentionally blocked with massive stones. Once inside, he realized he had entered a tunnel running directly beneath the pyramid. The passage extended nearly 330 feet, ending in a series of sealed chambers beneath the heart of the temple. What Gomez and his team eventually uncovered was not just an architectural feat, but a mystery that still baffles experts today. Inside the tunnel were offerings that included jade, shells, and thousands of objects ranging from fine pottery to strange figurines. But the most unsettling discovery was the presence of liquid mercury, pooled in the chambers, shimmering in the torchlight like a river of silver. Why would a pre-Columbian culture transport and seal mercury in underground tunnels? The substance is rare and highly toxic, and mining it would have required significant effort. For decades, no one believed mercury was used in the Americas at all until it was confirmed in these chambers. Some researchers suggest the mercury symbolized an underworld river or lake, a mirror-like surface representing the boundary between life and death. Others see it as part of a cosmic landscape recreated underground, a sacred microcosm of the universe where rituals of transformation took place. The engineering of the tunnel adds to the enigma. Its walls were carefully lined with powdered pyrite and hematite, materials that would have glimmered under torchlight, like a star-filled sky. Traces of orbs coated in reflective minerals were also found, possibly meant to represent planets or stars. This was not a hidden refuge like Derinkuyu. It was a carefully constructed underworld, a place where priests, rulers, or initiates descended into darkness to reenact creation myths and communicate with the divine. The secrecy is striking. The tunnel had been sealed deliberately in antiquity. Massive stones blocked the entrance, and access was cut off for nearly 2 millennia. Whoever closed it wanted to ensure no one could enter again. Yet the effort to build it in the first place must have been immense. Carving through volcanic rock, lining the walls with glittering minerals, hauling mercury from distant sources, these were not casual acts. They were deliberate, ritualistic, and hidden. What does this say about Teotihuacan itself? The city was one of the largest and most influential in the Americas, but strangely, the identity of its rulers remains a mystery. No clear royal tombs or inscriptions have ever been found. Unlike the Maya, the people of Teotihuacan left behind no records naming kings or dynasties. Some scholars believe power was shared among elites or priestly councils. Others suspect that the secrecy extended to erasing individual rulers from history. The tunnels beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent may hold the key, a place where rulers were buried or deified, hidden from view along with the city's greatest secrets. Yet despite years of exploration, the tunnels have not yielded a definitive answer. Bodies have not been found, only offerings and symbolic artifacts. This raises an unsettling possibility. Were the tunnels never meant to hold human remains at all? Were they built as a symbolic underworld, sealed forever after the rituals ended, leaving behind only traces of mercury and offerings to hint at what took place? The discovery also challenges mainstream assumptions about what ancient American civilizations were capable of. For years, textbooks claimed that liquid mercury was unknown in the Americas, yet here it was, sealed in a tunnel beneath a pyramid. Additionally, it was assumed that only Egyptians and Mesopotamians engineered complex symbolic underworlds, Yet Teotihuacan proves otherwise. And for years, archaeologists believed Teotihuacan's rulers had simply vanished into obscurity, yet the sealed chambers suggest their power was deliberately hidden. What makes this even more compelling is that Teotihuacan is not the only site in Mexico with subterranean mysteries. In 2018, radar scans beneath the Pyramid of the Moon revealed another possible tunnel system, still unexplored. Earlier excavations in the 1970s uncovered a tunnel under the Pyramid of the Sun. Each time, the story is the same: sealed passages, hidden offerings, and deliberate efforts to conceal whatever purpose they once served. Taken together, these discoveries paint a picture of a city obsessed with the underworld. The pyramids of Teotihuacan were not just monuments rising to the sky, but also gateways plunging into the earth. Above ground, the Avenue of the Dead stretched for miles, flanked by towering structures. Below ground, secret tunnels recreated rivers, stars, and cosmic realms that ordinary citizens never saw. This duality, public spectacle above, hidden ritual below, suggests a culture where secrecy was as important as power itself. And while Derinkuyu forced us to question how ancient people engineered vast underground cities for survival, Teotihuacan forces us to ask why they engineered them for secrecy. Mercury rivers, glittering pyrite walls, sealed chambers. These are not the tools of defense. They are the tools of mystery, meant to conceal truths we still do not understand. And as unsettling as this is, Teotihuacan's tunnels are not alone. Across the world, other civilizations carved secret passageways for reasons that remain obscure. Some were for ritual, some for survival, and some for purposes we can only speculate about. What ties them together is the effort to hide them, seal them, and keep them buried. And nowhere is that more evident than in the tunnels we'll explore next. If Derinkuyu showed us tunnels built for survival, and Teotihuacan revealed tunnels engineered for secrecy, the site of Chavin de Huantar in the Peruvian Andes shows us something stranger still: tunnels built to transform the human mind. Chavin de Huantar was a ceremonial center that flourished around 1200 to 500 BC, centuries before the rise of the Inca. At first glance, its stone temples resemble many other ancient sites in the Andes. But beneath the surface lies a network of galleries and passageways unlike anything else in the region. These tunnels weren't built to house thousands, nor to conceal rulers in hidden chambers. They were designed to manipulate sound, light, and human perception. Archaeologists studying the site have described the galleries as echoing chambers and disorienting labyrinths. Some passageways are so narrow that a single person can barely squeeze through. Others open suddenly into wider spaces where sound bounces and warps. Inside, stone drains carry rushing water beneath the floors, creating a constant, low roar. In total darkness, with echoes surrounding you and water thundering below, the space feels alive. Experiments at Chavin have revealed how deliberate this design was. Researchers brought replica conch shell trumpets into the tunnels, instruments known to have been used at the site, and played them in the enclosed spaces. The result was overwhelming. The blasts produced booming, animal-like roars that reverberated through the stone, amplifying into sounds more terrifying than any human voice. Imagine being a pilgrim descending into the labyrinth plunged into total darkness, the air vibrating with roars as if gods or beasts were speaking through the walls. At the heart of Chavin de Huantar stands the Lanzon, a massive granite monolith carved with the snarling image of a fanged deity. It sits deep within the galleries, accessible only through the twisting tunnels. Reaching it would have been the climax of an initiation, a sensory ordeal designed to break down the ordinary boundaries of perception. Light, sound, and architecture combined to disorient and overwhelm, preparing visitors for what they believed was direct contact with the divine. This use of tunnels is unique in the ancient world. They were not defensive, nor practical, nor even purely symbolic. They were instruments, carefully engineered to alter consciousness. By manipulating echoes, controlling access to light, and channeling the roar of rushing water, the builders of Chavin created a technology of experience. It was architecture not for shelter, but for transformation. The secrecy of the site adds to the mystery. Much of Chavin's symbolism revolves around dualities: light and dark, above and below, order and chaos. Ordinary life happened in the plazas above ground, but true transformation was reserved for the hidden spaces below, where only initiates and priests could enter. The underground world was a threshold between the human and the divine. The implications are profound. If the tunnels of Derinkuyu show the ingenuity of survival, and Teotihuacan shows the power of hidden ritual, Chavin suggests something more elusive: the deliberate use of underground architecture to change human perception itself. These were not metaphors carved in stone. They were sensory machines, designed to generate awe, fear, and revelation. And it forces us to ask, if tunnels here were used to alter consciousness, Could the myths of underground worlds, from hidden kingdoms to sacred underworlds, be more than metaphors? Could they be cultural memories of places deliberately engineered to transform how people experienced reality? The tunnels of Chavin de Huantar show how the underground could be built to change perception. But some traditions go further, describing not just chambers or passageways, but entire hidden kingdoms sealed beneath the surface of the earth. In the early 20th century, Polish explorer Ferdynand Ossendowski traveled through Central Asia and later published Beasts, Men, and Gods. In it, he recounted a story told to him by lamas in Mongolia, a story about a vast subterranean realm known as Agartha. According to them, Agartha was a hidden world, accessed through secret tunnels in remote deserts and mountains. It was ruled by the so-called King of the World, a figure whose influence stretched to the surface, shaping human events through unseen means. The kingdom was said to be lit by its own source of power, sustained by technologies and wisdom preserved from ages long before. The descriptions are striking: a hidden kingdom, eternal light, secret entrances scattered across the landscape. The idea of an underground civilization with knowledge far beyond our own sounds like fantasy, but it aligns closely with other traditions. Tibetan Buddhism speaks of Shambhala, another hidden realm of wisdom beyond ordinary geography. Some accounts place it in the high mountains, accessible only to those who know the way. Others describe it as a place shielded from ordinary eyes, a domain of kings and sages who watch from afar. The overlap between Shambhala and Agartha is too close to ignore. Both describe secret entrances, hidden realms, and ancient rulers who remain out of reach. These ideas were later taken up by fringe theorists who argued that the Earth might not be solid at all, but hollow. According to the hollow Earth theory, vast inner spaces could exist within the planet, connected to the surface through tunnels at the poles or other hidden gateways. Inside these caverns, entire civilizations could thrive, survivors of catastrophes that wiped out earlier epochs of humanity, or beings entirely unknown to us. By the 19th and 20th centuries, this concept gained traction in occult circles, with believers pointing to myths like Agartha and Shambhala as evidence that cultures across the world were preserving the same memory of hidden realms. What makes the theory more intriguing is its global reach. Stories of subterranean peoples aren't confined to Central Asia. Across South America, Europe, and North America, similar legends appear: hidden entrances, glowing inner lands, powerful guardians below the earth. The consistency across cultures separated by oceans and centuries suggests these stories had roots in something more than imagination. Mainstream archaeology dismisses hollow earth theories outright, and perhaps rightly so. But even if we set aside the idea of entire kingdoms inside the planet, the persistence of these stories matters. They point to a global fascination with the underground, not as a void of stone and darkness, but as a place of hidden power. And they raise a difficult question: are these myths simply symbolic, or are they distorted accounts of real encounters with subterranean structures, places, and events long since forgotten? One thing is clear: tales of Agartha and Shambhala are not isolated anomalies. They sit within a much larger web of traditions describing secret worlds below the surface. And these aren't only Asian stories. Some of the most vivid accounts come from the Americas. Across the Americas, traditions tell of hidden worlds below the surface. Some describe ancestors who survived disaster by taking refuge in the earth, while others speak of beings who still dwell beneath us, unseen. These stories are not vague or peripheral. They are central to the identity of the cultures that carry them. For the Hopi people of the American Southwest, one of the most important teachings is the emergence. According to their oral history, humanity once lived in an underworld, a realm of darkness beneath the earth. Guided by spiritual beings, the Hopi clans climbed upward through a narrow opening until they reached the surface, entering the present world. That moment of passage from darkness to light is still remembered in ceremonies. Within Hopi kivas, underground ritual chambers, a small hole, called the Sipapu, symbolizes the portal through which their ancestors emerged. It is a reminder that the people of today are descended from those who once lived below. The details are striking. These stories describe survival in hidden places during cataclysmic upheavals. Some versions say earlier worlds were destroyed by floods, fire, or ice, with only a remnant surviving by dwelling beneath the ground until it was safe to return. The idea of multiple worlds, each destroyed in turn, mirrors a cycle of catastrophe and renewal, a theme found in other cultures far beyond North America. The Navajo tell of past worlds as well, each ending in disaster. Humans, they say, passed from one world to the next, until arriving in the present one. The Cherokee recount traditions of hidden people who live below, sometimes emerging to the surface, but largely remaining unseen. Even the Mandan, a people of the northern plains, spoke of their ancestors climbing from an underworld through a great opening in the earth. These stories carry consistency across vast distances and distinct cultures. Humanity sheltered beneath the earth, survived destruction, and re-emerged to rebuild. When placed beside archaeology, they take on a sharper edge. The Hopi say their ancestors endured underground until it was safe above. In Turkey, Derinkuyu proves that entire communities really did carve underground refuges capable of sustaining tens of thousands. Both traditions, one preserved in myth, the other carved into rock, reflect the same idea. When catastrophe strikes, survival may depend on going below. It is possible that the myths preserve distant memories of such refuges. Oral traditions are not perfect records, but they carry patterns. The themes of survival in darkness, protection by guardians, and eventual return to the light align uncannily with what archaeology now shows us humans were capable of. These stories may not describe literal events as we would record them, but they may encode truths about how earlier peoples endured crises that wiped out much of the world they knew. There is also the recurring theme of secrecy. Just as Derinkuyu lay hidden until its entrance was breached, many native stories suggest that hidden peoples remain below, living apart from the surface world. To the Hopi, the underground is not just history, but an active part of their cosmology, a place that shaped who they are and continues to hold meaning today. When viewed globally, the parallels are difficult to ignore. In Asia, myths of Agartha and Shambhala describe entire hidden kingdoms sealed beneath mountains. In the Americas, the Hopi and others recall their ancestors' emergence from subterranean realms after catastrophe. Across continents, separated by oceans, the themes are the same. The underground is a place of refuge, transformation, and hidden power. And while archaeologists interpret these as metaphors or symbolic cycles, the existence of real underground cities and tunnels shows that the line between myth and reality is not as clear as once believed. Legends of emergence may be cultural memories of real survival strategies, blurred and reshaped over thousands of years. The question is, what else may be hidden? If oral histories point to underground refuges, and if archaeology confirms their existence in some parts of the world, then it follows that many more may lie undiscovered, carved into rock, concealed or erased from records. And not all of them would be obvious. Some could be vast, elaborate systems hiding in plain sight, their entrances forgotten. Which brings us to China, where in 1992, a group of farmers decided to drain a pond. For generations, the water had filled a depression in the landscape, and locals assumed it was nothing more than a natural feature. But when the water was pumped away, what emerged shocked everyone. Beneath the pond was the entrance to a massive, hand-carved cavern, and it wasn't alone. Over the following years, more than 24 similar chambers were discovered, now collectively known as the Longyu Caves. Each is vast, with high ceilings, expansive halls, and walls bearing the unmistakable marks of hand tools. Together, they form one of the most astonishing subterranean sites in the world. Yet there is no historical record, no inscription, and no local memory of their construction. It is as though an ancient culture carved out an entire underground complex and then erased all trace of its existence. The scale of the Longyu Caves is staggering. Individual chambers reach heights of nearly 100 feet, with floor areas large enough to hold aircraft hangars. The interiors are carefully shaped, with flat walls and sharply defined corners. Every surface shows parallel chisel marks, as if hundreds of workers systematically carved out the stone with remarkable precision. In total, the caves required the removal of an estimated 1 million cubic meters of rock. Even with modern tools, this would be a monumental task. With ancient technology, it seems nearly impossible. And yet, there they are. Silent, empty, and unexplained. Archaeologists have struggled to determine when the caves were created. The consensus is that they were carved at least 2,000 years ago, perhaps during the Qin or early Han dynasties. But there's no mention of them in any records, no accounts of the labor force that would have been required, and no explanation for why they were abandoned. The absence of documentation is almost as puzzling as the caves themselves. In a culture as meticulous about record-keeping as ancient China, how could a project of this size simply vanish from history? Some theories suggest the caves were quarries, carved to extract stone. But if that were the case, why finish the walls with decorative chisel marks, covering every surface in uniform patterns? And why are the chambers left completely empty, with no debris, no artifacts, and no evidence of habitation? Others argue that they may have been tombs or ritual sites, but no burials, inscriptions, or offerings have ever been found. The purpose remains a mystery. Part of the enigma is that many of the caves remain partially flooded. The waterlogged chambers have never been fully drained or explored, leaving large sections inaccessible. What lies beneath the waterline is still unknown. It is possible that artifacts, carvings, or other evidence remain sealed away, hidden under the dark pools. For now, those areas remain off-limits, adding another layer of secrecy to a mystery already thick with unanswered questions. The deliberate erasure is the most unsettling part. If these were mere quarries or shelters, why is there no trace of them in local memory or historical texts? It seems more likely that whoever built the Long Yu caves did so with a purpose we cannot yet identify, and then deliberately erased their work from the record. Whether that was to hide the purpose of the caves, to protect sacred knowledge, or simply because the builders vanished, we cannot say. What is clear is that the Long Yu caves should not exist as they do, yet they do. For investigators, the site represents a challenge. The tool marks show human effort, but the absence of supporting evidence suggests something more. Did an ancient culture possess knowledge or techniques now lost to us? Were these chambers meant to serve as storage, ritual sanctuaries, or even refuges during times of catastrophe? Or was the purpose something so alien to our assumptions that we cannot even recognize it when staring at the evidence? The caves remind us that human history is far from complete. They show that even in one of the world's most carefully chronicled civilizations, entire projects can be erased. And they raise an uncomfortable question. If a massive carved complex like Long Yu could vanish from history, what else might be missing? How many other sites lie hidden under lakes, hills, or farmland, waiting to be uncovered by accident? If Long Yu showed us how human hands could carve immense chambers and erase them from history, Mammoth Cave in Kentucky shows how nature itself creates underground realms on a scale that dwarfs almost anything we can imagine. So far, more than 420 miles of passageways have been officially mapped, making Mammoth Cave the largest known cave system in the world. But explorers are certain that number barely scratches the surface. Current estimates suggest the system could reach 600 miles, perhaps more. Each year, cavers push deeper, charting new branches, only to find more corridors stretching into the dark. Imagine an underground world extending from London to Paris, twisting and turning through stone. That is Mammoth Cave, a labyrinth so vast it is difficult even to comprehend. The passages themselves vary wildly. Some are broad and smooth, shaped by rivers that cut through limestone over millions of years. Others narrow into jagged crawl spaces where the air grows heavy and explorers must squeeze forward inch by inch. There are chambers so large that visitors have compared them to underground cathedrals. Standing in such a space, with ceilings vanishing into shadow above and walls echoing with every step, it's easy to feel as though you are inside another dimension entirely. And the deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. Indigenous peoples used parts of the cave thousands of years ago, leaving behind torches, artifacts, and even human remains preserved in the dry air. In the 19th century, miners harvested saltpeter from its chambers to make gunpowder. Tourists soon followed, drawn by its sheer scale, and by its ominous reputation. Guides told stories of ghostly lights flickering in the distance, or of winds rushing through sealed passages as if unseen forces were breathing below. There were also darker tales. Visitors who strayed from the group, lost their bearings in the endless passages, and were never seen again. Some of those stories are documented. One of the most famous involves Floyd Collins, a caver who became trapped in a narrow passageway in 1925. Efforts to rescue him captured the attention of the nation, with reporters camping at the site and relaying updates by telegraph. After 2 weeks, Collins died, his body wedged in stone, unreachable. His story cemented Mammoth Cave's reputation, not just as a marvel, but as a place that could claim lives without mercy. Even today, cavers describe the system with awe and unease. Some speak of hearing voices carried through the tunnels, distorted by echoes, until they seem to come from nowhere. Others recall the disorienting effect of losing all light, when a lantern fails, and the darkness presses in so absolutely that the mind begins to invent shapes and sounds. Mammoth is more than a cave. It is an environment designed to strip away human reference points. In those moments, people say, you feel the cave itself is alive. The depth adds to the fear. While Mammoth does not plunge vertically like Veryovkina in Georgia, the deepest known cave in the world, descending more than 7,200 feet, its endless horizontal sprawl creates its own terror. At least in a vertical descent, explorers know the direction they must climb to escape. In Mammoth, the danger lies in its scale. Corridors branch and twist until the sense of direction collapses. Without careful mapping, a wrong turn can lead to miles of wandering in the dark with no way back. The result is a different kind of depth, not of distance, but of infinity. And despite centuries of exploration, most of the cave remains untouched. Whole sections are closed off, some because of hazardous air pockets, others because they have simply never been surveyed. What lies in those sealed chambers is anyone's guess. The possibility of new species, untouched archaeological sites, or massive unexplored halls remains very real. Mammoth Cave proves that even in a world mapped from orbit, there are still places on this planet where the unknown stretches for hundreds of miles. That is what makes the system so unsettling. If natural geology can produce an underground world on this scale, endless corridors, hidden chambers, toxic pockets of air, rivers running in silence for miles, then secrecy beneath the surface is not just a human invention. It is part of the planet itself. And if caves created by nature can swallow lives and still hold miles of uncharted territory, what might lie inside the tunnels built deliberately by human powers, where secrecy is the very purpose? Underground networks are not just relics of the past. In northern China, one of the largest subterranean systems on Earth was built not thousands of years ago, but in the last few decades. It is known as the underground Great Wall. Constructed by the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, this labyrinth reportedly stretches more than 3,000 miles, longer than the entire width of the continental United States. Its purpose is not disputed. It was designed to store, move, and protect China's nuclear arsenal. But nearly everything else about it remains classified. Fragments of information come from satellite imagery, rare leaked photos, and investigative reports. They show entrances disguised as hillsides, camouflage blast doors, and long reinforced corridors where missile transporters can move unseen. Analysts believe the tunnels link together storage chambers, launch bays, and underground command centers. Some reports even suggest entire cities have been constructed within the network to house military personnel. The engineering effort behind it is staggering. Carving thousands of miles of tunnel through rock would have required massive boring machines, decades of labor, and an enormous budget. Chinese sources say the project began during the height of the Cold War, when the risk of a nuclear first strike from rival powers was seen as a real threat. By dispersing missiles and launch systems underground, China ensured its arsenal could survive and retaliate no matter what happened above. Estimates of what lies inside vary widely. Official figures put China's nuclear arsenal at around 500 warheads. Some US defense analysts argue the number could be far higher, with many of those weapons concealed in the underground Great Wall. If true, China may possess far more strategic power than it publicly admits. The tunnels allow weapons to be hidden, moved, and potentially launched from unpredictable locations, making them nearly impossible to track. First-hand accounts from defectors and leaked state documents describe networks of reinforced bunkers, train tunnels large enough to carry mobile launch systems, and maintenance facilities buried hundreds of feet underground. The tunnels are said to connect entire provinces, stretching through mountains and linking critical bases together. For comparison, the US built hundreds of individual silos during the Cold War, fixed sites that could be targeted. China's approach is different, a shadow network that can shift and hide, making any strike against it uncertain. The secrecy around the underground Great Wall has fueled debate for decades. In 2009, a Chinese state television segment showed brief footage of missile transporters moving through underground corridors, confirming what analysts had long suspected. Beyond that, almost nothing has been disclosed. Western researchers have attempted to map the system through satellite data, but only fragments are known. The true scale and capacity remain hidden. The comparisons are stark. Derinkuyu sheltered 20,000 people beneath Turkey's soil. The Mammoth Cave system winds for hundreds of miles through Kentucky's limestone. But the underground Great Wall surpasses them both in length and purpose. It is not a relic of survival or a natural wonder. It is a modern fortress, dug in silence, designed to conceal weapons that could end life on the surface. That continuity is telling. From ancient sanctuaries to modern bunkers, the underground remains the ultimate safeguard. Thousands of years ago, people sealed themselves away to survive floods or invasions. Today, governments seal away their most dangerous arsenals. The instinct is the same. When the stakes are highest, power is hidden below. Most of what lies inside the underground Great Wall will likely never be seen by the public. Entrances are sealed, maps are classified, and the system is constantly expanding. What is known is enough to prove that even in the age of satellites and constant surveillance, the most important infrastructure can still vanish from view if it is built beneath the surface. In the Ural Mountains of Russia, rises a peak with a reputation unlike any other. Mount Yamantau looks ordinary from the outside, a rugged, forested mountain range dotted with small towns and villages. But intelligence agencies, satellite images, and scattered reports tell a very different story. They describe the mountain as sealed, honeycombed with tunnels, and guarded with unusual secrecy. For decades, Mount Yamantau has been at the center of one of the greatest mysteries of the Cold War and beyond. The story first came to wider attention in the 1990s, as the Soviet Union collapsed and Russia transitioned into its new identity. American satellites had already been tracking unusual activity in the area for years. They showed massive excavation projects around the mountain, construction of rail lines and highways leading directly into it, and whole towns springing up to houseworkers. The effort was enormous, rivaling the largest military-industrial projects of the Cold War. Yet Russia never explained what it was building. When pressed, Russian officials gave contradictory answers. At times, they claimed the site was nothing more than a mining operation. In other statements, it was described as a food storage facility, or even a warehouse for treasures of the Russian people. None of these explanations matched the scale of the project. A warehouse does not require entire railroads driven into a mountain. A food depot does not explain thousands of workers excavating chambers large enough to be seen from space. The answers only deepen the mystery. American analysts suspected something much more serious, a vast underground complex built for nuclear war. During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union developed networks of bunkers and command posts designed to survive a first strike. But Yamantau appeared to go far beyond that. The scale suggested not just a bunker for leaders, but an entire subterranean city capable of housing tens of thousands. Reports claimed it could store weapons, accommodate command centers, and provide shelter for Russia's leadership and military in the event of global catastrophe. What made Yamantau especially ominous was the timing. Construction continued through the 1990s, even as Russia was experiencing economic collapse. The government claimed it could not pay wages or provide basic services, yet it poured enormous resources into digging deeper into the mountain. Why was Yamantau considered so important that it survived when so many other projects were abandoned? First-hand accounts from those living near the site describe heavy security and total secrecy. Entire towns were off-limits to outsiders. Roads were blocked, checkpoints manned by armed guards restricted movement, and locals were warned not to ask questions. Some workers reportedly lived in closed cities nearby, their lives tied entirely to the project. To this day, the area remains sensitive, patrolled, and shielded from prying eyes. Satellite images confirmed what locals hinted at. Vast spoil piles of excavated rock appeared on the surface, proof of massive tunneling below. Rail lines were built directly into the mountain, suggesting that whatever lay inside required heavy equipment or supplies. Analysts compared the visible infrastructure to known nuclear command complexes, but on a much larger scale. The true scale is still unknown. Some reports suggest Yamantau could cover more than 400 square miles of underground space, enough to contain not just bunkers, but entire industrial facilities. Others estimate it could support a population of 60,000 for months, perhaps years. If accurate, Yamantau is not just a command center. It is a hidden city, buried deep in the Ural Mountains, waiting for a future most hope will never come. The secrecy continues into the present day. Russia has never offered a consistent explanation, and Western intelligence has never been able to confirm what lies inside. To this day, Yamantau is treated as one of Russia's most classified projects, guarded as tightly as nuclear launch codes. The silence has left the field open to speculation. Some argue it is a continuity of government facility, meant to keep Russia's leadership alive through nuclear war. Others believe it houses nuclear weapons or production facilities, hidden away from international treaties. The most extreme theories suggest it could contain research laboratories or storage for doomsday devices. Whatever the truth, the unanswered questions make Yamantau one of the most unsettling sites on Earth. Unlike ancient ruins, where mystery lingers because time has erased the evidence, Yamantau is deliberately hidden, actively maintained, and fiercely protected. It shows that secrecy underground is not a thing of the past. It is alive today, guarded by one of the world's most powerful militaries. And yet, even with all the satellite images, analyst reports, and local accounts, the strangest claims about Yamantau don't come from governments at all. They come from those who say they've been inside. Few stories illustrate this better than the case of Phil Schneider and the Dulce Base. Phil Schneider was a geological engineer who claimed to have worked on deep underground military construction projects in the United States during the 1970s. According to his testimony, he wasn't just involved in building tunnels. He claimed to have witnessed and survived one of the strangest and most terrifying encounters ever reported beneath the earth. In a series of public talks during the mid-1990s, Schneider described a hidden facility near Dulce, New Mexico. He said the base was built as part of a vast network of DUMBS, deep underground military bases, linked together by high-speed tunnels running beneath the country. These facilities, he claimed, were not just bunkers or storage sites. They were research centers where genetic experiments and classified projects were conducted far from public view. But Schneider's most explosive claim was that the Dulce base was not controlled solely by humans. He said that while excavating a section of the tunnels, workers broke into a cavern already occupied, and that inside were non-human entities. According to him, the accidental breach sparked a firefight. Schneider claimed he was wounded by a weapon unlike anything known on the surface, a blast that burned part of his chest and hand. Dozens of soldiers and workers, he said, were killed in the incident. From that moment forward, Dulce Base was allegedly operated as a joint facility, with both human and non-human occupants sharing the underground space. The details are sensational. Laboratories where experiments blended human and animal DNA, tanks filled with strange biological matter, and levels of the base restricted depending on clearance. The deeper you went, the stranger the research became. Schneider painted a picture of an underground world where science crossed into territory that mainstream institutions would never acknowledge. Of course, none of these claims have ever been verified. No hard evidence has emerged that proves Dulce Base exists. No documents have surfaced confirming Schneider's story. To this day, official sources dismiss his testimony as fabrication. And yet, what keeps the story alive is how it fits within the broader pattern we've already seen. Governments and militaries clearly value underground secrecy. From China's 3,000 miles of nuclear tunnels to Russia's Mount Yamantau, enormous projects exist that the public knows almost nothing about. If those are admitted, how much more could remain unacknowledged? Even among locals in Dulce, stories have circulated for years about unusual activity. Residents have spoken of strange lights in the sky, unexplained sounds deep in the mesa, and military-style helicopters flying low without insignia. Combined with Schneider's claims, the legend of Dulce Base has become one of the most enduring underground conspiracy stories in the United States. Critics point out that Schneider's account was inconsistent at times, and that he provided no physical proof of his wounds being caused by unknown weapons. But supporters argue that he paid the ultimate price for speaking out. In 1996, Schneider was found dead in his apartment under circumstances his family and followers describe as suspicious. Officially, his death was ruled a suicide. To those who believe his story, it was silencing. What makes the Dulce Base story important is not whether every detail is true, but what it represents. Even as a legend, it reflects the same themes found throughout history: secrecy below ground, hidden chambers sealed from public eyes, and projects carried out in silence while the world above carries on unaware. Dulce has become a symbol of the underground itself, a place where the most dangerous or extraordinary truths are kept buried. From Derinkuyu to Teotihuacan, from Chavin to Yamantau, every site we've explored points to the same conclusion. The underground has always been where humanity hides what it cannot explain, what it cannot control, or what it wants to keep safe from view. In ancient times, it was survival and ritual. In modern times, it is weapons, bunkers, and perhaps, if Schneider's story contains even a grain of truth, experiments we are not supposed to know about. We've followed tunnels from Turkey to Peru, from China to the United States, and through legends that span cultures across the globe. Some were carved to protect whole populations, others built for worship, others sealed for military power. A few are openly acknowledged, but many remain classified, restricted, or unexplored. All of it points to one fact: the underground has always been where humanity hides what matters most. Cities, arsenals, secrets, and perhaps things we are not meant to know. All buried in darkness, waiting to be uncovered. Now it's your turn. Do you think stories like Dulce Base are nothing more than myth, or do they echo realities governments would never admit? And if they do, how much of our history, or even our present, is still hidden below our feet? Let us know in the comments, because your insights often shape where we go next. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming. We've got more investigations ahead that will challenge everything we thought we knew about the world. And if you want to keep uncovering hidden places, the video on screen now explores 20 mysterious polises on Earth that you cannot visit. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, and as always, stay curious.